Well, we're never going to get to our dream of a more perfect union, of a country where everyone is not just born with equal rights, but actually has equal rights of achievement through their lives, if we don't transform our education system. So in Denver, we were the first city to get universal pre-K for every 4-year-old. We went and we had 100 people, conservative Republicans like Pete Kors ended up supporting the tax increase to create universal pre-K. We actually walked the talk. We also have, when I became governor, we created what we call third grade literacy, early literacy. So if a kid's looks like they're not going to be able to stay on track when they're in first grade or second grade, we immerse them in support. Many young kids have some form of learning disorder. I'm moderately dyslexic, so I was a very slow reader. I'm a very good reader. I remember it, but I'm slow. If you catch kids when they're 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, you can repattern how their brain sees the letters in a word and in a paragraph, and they could, by the end of third grade, they can be reading at grade level. We cut the percentage of kids reading at grade level at the end of third grade by 50%. And if they're not reading at the end of third grade, that next summer we put them in another immersion class, because if you can't learn to read by the end of third grade, you're going to hate school, and the statistics are that you will drop out. I think it's 60% will drop out by the time they're in the time that they're in 8th grade. Then you see 90% of the people in our prisons dropped out of school. So those are all the basics. Make sure they can do multiplication and subtraction and division by the time that they finish 6th grade. But most importantly, let's make sure that every kid, when they finish high school, they've got a chance at a great life. So in Colorado, we have this apprenticeship program where kids at 16 years old going into the sophomore year, they can go work for a bank, an insurance company. They work 3 years. The first year they work 2 days and then study 3 days. The next year they work 3 days instead of 2 days, but they study only 2 days. And the third year they'll work 4 or 5 days. At the end of 3-year apprenticeship, they'll have been paid $30,000. If they want to go on to college, which some do, but not many, they will have a year's college credit because they go and study at community colleges. They'll have their high school degree, but they'll have skills. And I think that, if I get elected president, we'll have 1 million apprentices a year, because that is 2/3 of our kids never get a 4-year college degree. Nobody talks about that. And we've also worked with LinkedIn and Microsoft to create something called skillful.com, which will encourage kids throughout their entire life. So that we'll have kids of all ages that'll have a profile of the skills they acquire, and at any time, if their profession's about to disappear, like mine did as a geologist in the mid-'80s, if their profession's going away, they can click on other professions, see what skills they have that are relevant, what skills they're missing, where they can get those skills, what it will cost, and ultimately, and this is the hard part, we need to get 4 or 5 years out ahead of when their professions might disappear. So that we can go to workers and say, hey, in 3 or 4 years, we don't know, but your profession might be changing. And here are some classes at your community college that we would suggest you take, take you 6 weeks, 2 nights a week, do it this summer, and then next fall take these 2 classes. You might not need it, but in 3 or 4 years, at least you'll have choices. And if we get out ahead of it, we'll avoid this incredible disruption that's looming from automation, artificial intelligence, and that situation which we saw elected Donald Trump, where so many people lose not just their job, but their profession, and they feel like nobody gives a rat's tail about their lives.